I have been waiting for Babylon's return for so long, it feels like an eternity, but hey, we finally got that episode 8. I truly thought we were going to get the remaining episodes similar to how they dropped the first 3 episodes in a binge format, or at least Amazon did. I thought that's how the final chunk would go, but no, we're getting it weekly for the final stretch, and I know some people are probably going to complain about that, but hey, you gotta build up hype in the way that you want to. This was an incredibly popular series in Japan, and it's a good way to keep the hype and just the overall length that this series will remain into the general public's mind is a good way to do so. Maybe not always the best for a viewing experience, but hey, we're at least getting it sooner rather than later, because this easily could have been one of those anime where you didn't get the final episode until a year later. We've seen that happen, so I'm glad it was just more of a, hey, we're trying to keep the hype up rather than the production completely went down the drain. It was actually kind of funny, a few days ago before episode 8 dropped, if you went on Amazon Prime and you had like Babylon in your queue, what would happen was you'd see episodes 1 through 7 and then you'd see episode 9. There was no 8, just episodes 7 and then 9. And I saw so many people start talking like, do we watch this just to see where the story's going, or do we just kind of hold out? I definitely held out, but yeah, it definitely has been corrected since then, but it was a little funny glitch. I was like, damn, it's a shame they didn't accidentally release all the episodes, because then I could have binged it, but you know, I digress. This episode was a great return to form, and I'm sure there's going to be some people who only caught up to Babylon because they heard it was crazy with episode 7, but Babylon has always been a political thriller, and that's what it's always been built on from day one. It has its insane moments, look at episode 3, look at episode 7, but this isn't an anime where people get cut up into body parts, you know, every episode. And to have the President of the United States, who is a gamer at heart, who is a thinker, now getting involved because basically this suicide law is starting to spread, especially to the neighboring country, Canada, my home country, it totally makes sense on why the US is now starting to get involved, but also seeing where Zen is going after being mentally broke. I thought this was a great episode for exactly what it aimed to do, which was to continue the story without just doing the same thing over and over again by trying to be edgy. No, when the bad things happen, it impacts us because we're not expecting it, and they don't just show it every other second. This anime could easily make the mistake of just having characters die time and time again non-stop, and just let the viewers grow numb and stale to it. Like, it would just feel like, oh yeah, another character had a brutal death, who cares? But when it happens, because it happens every few episodes, every 4 episodes, it does leave a lasting impact on us, and that's why a month later, I'm still thinking about episode 7. And I think the idea of where Zen went in the first half of this episode was incredible, because this should have broke him, and the idea that he's basically seeing the ghosts of those he lost as he drinks his sorrow away, the fact that he worries about his family of what could happen to them because he knows he's going to be targeted. Hell, he gets an egg in this episode that's just like, what is going on with the torment that this guy is having to deal with? And the fact that, you know, he pretty much can't say anything because everything is being covered up as a suicide, except the one death that was clearly murder. It's like he is completely isolated and separated. His entire team's dead. Pretty much everything he feels like is his fault, and he has no support except now people coming up saying, hey, we know you know some things, share your information. And now he's going to have to work behind the scenes and probably do some illegal activities to expose the truth. Like, that's everything I wanted from his character 100%. Like, obviously, you can't just have him like flip a switch and be the Zen we once recognized. He's lost everything, so they should have a lot of emotional turmoil. And I thought the way they cleverly use like sound and just the eeriness of him being so broken was great, especially in that scene when he's basically just standing in the rain. He's seeing, you know, the horrible villain just kind of popping up everywhere. Like, his mind is shattered, and I love how they made us really feel like what happened in episode 7 wasn't just for shocks for the viewer, that it's going to have a lasting impact on our central character, which is what I want. We're still going to sweat because of his family. Like, they're going to the zoo, they're going out without bodyguards. Like, you know, at any moment, something like episode 7 could happen to his family, and probably will. But I will be honest, when we start focusing on this guy who was just playing an online game with some cute initials that spelled out awe, I was like, you know what? Like, this is cool, but it almost feels like we're getting a JoJo backstory here. Like, what's going on? Like, what are we having? And then by the time it kind of got to, like, the middle section of this backstory, I realized he's going to be a pretty important political figure, but I wasn't expecting the President of the United States. And I do love the idea of how, like, they're getting involved, because it starts off, you know, it's across the ocean. It's like, you know, one city's adapting a suicide law. You know, they're still kind of arguing about whether or not to fully have it there. It's getting basically an even split of votes. But then it starts going to France, and it starts going to Canada and certain cities, and now it's going inside America for a certain city. It's like, now they have to start acting because it reached their doorsteps and neighbors. It's like, that's exactly how politics with the US would work, where they pretty much ignore it at the start because, it's in Japan or something. But once it goes to Canada, or once it goes to their own country, it's like, okay, now we gotta get involved here. Like, this is why I've always complimented the political writing for this anime, is it actually feels like someone who's writing it from political experience or has studied politics in some way. The way things happen, should we apply what's happening right now in Babylon with the, suicide law, having the public debate it, whether it just be in an MMO or just with their day-to-day conversation. If there was like a country like Japan that had a single city, or just like the more started getting adopted, and just how we would start applying and how there'd clearly be some shady things going on, and the questions of morality of, the Bible doesn't technically say it's wrong, but my own logical mind is saying maybe we shouldn't let this happen, right? There's all these like thoughts and just comments being made, and that's exactly how it would happen if something to this magnitude happened in the real world. Because it's not even just like suicide is being legalized, there's clearly things that don't add up, which is why characters are coming to Zen saying, hey, do you know the truth of what happened on that fateful day? That's what I love about this anime, is that it's not built on just shocking you with cutting up a body, or having a character hang themselves and posing it as suicide, right? What this anime does exceptionally well is the slow burn of the political thriller, really getting us to care, and even if you're not that interested in politics, they make it very easy to digest and understand why things are happening, as if crazy things are still happening, just not with blood and gore. So when we do get that blood and gore, it is shocking to us because they're not solely relying on being a slasher thriller, which a lot of anime, if they were to take the idea that Babylon is going for, would do. They would just keep every other episode shocking with gore, and then eventually by the halfway point, people would stop caring because it's the same edgy thing over and over again. But Babylon isn't edgy. Babylon is intelligent with its writing, both with its political, but also when it has to get gory. That is exactly why I think a series like Babylon, episode 7 trended, right? It trended globally for a while, because it wasn't like that's all this anime was. Like, it was a slow burn up to that point, and when we got it, we were shocked and just disturbed, saying, holy shit, they weren't just doing this every episode. That's why it's so shocking. The first time they really shocked us was just with a character hanging themselves. By making the entire point of Babylon rely on its actual world building of basically imposing this suicide law, having us really care about the characters, so when something bad happens, it feels impactful, whether it be a rope around someone's neck or literally slashing and dicing someone's body to pieces. Which I still can't believe they did so elegantly by just showing, Zen's family cutting up like meats and things like that. This anime is crazy, and I imagine by the time we get like to episode 11, episode 12, I would be shocked if we didn't have something that is supposed to like, holy shit, jaw on the floor. Like, I imagine something like that is going to happen eventually. And I'm glad they're not just every other episode either doing something brutal or just trying to shock the viewer for no reason other than to say, hey, this is all we got, right? Because so many stories, they just rely on the shock factor so they can excuse their piss poor writing. But I think the reason a show like Babylon is going to continue to be hyped up, probably even into late of 2020, is because it doesn't rely on shocks to be memorable. It's actual intelligent writing. And like, it is a little funny with how they introduced the president, but I do like the idea of having, like, a gamer president who just, really liked games, and that's how he always kind of got around to thinking. He used his mind and just would think about things for a long period of time. It actually got across, a man who lacked self-confidence, got into contact with a beautiful woman who kind of made him accept that he is special, and that kind of goes to show why he became the president. And I think it kind of makes sense why we're now focusing on the US, because you need someone to really sit down and think about this for a long period of time, because on both sides, legalize it, decriminalize it, make it illegal, all of them have valuable reasons for it to be that way, but there's also clearly some things not going a-okay. So it's nice to know that there is going to be a character who's actually going to think about things logically and not just think about things emotionally. But then again, maybe he will be bought in and indoctrinated by this crazy witch. Like, I mean, it would be interesting to see if, like, there are male characters who can go against someone like Magus and just, like, still not sure if it's sexual orientation or, like, how exactly her, like, weird psychological abilities work. Like, there's so many ways to take her character, and the fact that she's more of this, like, almost ghost that you don't even know if she's actually there or not, it just keeps it so haunting, as if we never really know, is she in front of us? Is she not even there? Is she even a real person, right? It's like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I do like the line of like, hey, it would be a lot easier if there was a missile pointed towards the US than dealing with what's happening, which is absolutely true. You can see a missile, you can at least counter it because it's a physical thing, but something like this, you almost feel like you're being invaded by this like foreign law that's now being imposed all across just different cities and locations. It's like, this anime is incredible, and I'm sure there's going to be some people who just jumped aboard because of episode 7 saying it's boring because it's more politics, but that's literally what this anime's always been built off of. So if you're only watching it for like episodes 3 and 7, this will never be an anime for you. But for me, I love it still my favorite anime of the season, and the fact that we're going to have 4 episodes into the next season, the next year, that's just great. I love Babylon, and I can't wait to see how this story is going to continue to unfold. What did everyone think of episode 8? Favorite moment, where you think it's going to go? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you have been new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.